Get ready, because what is happening at Georgia is not just another college football fundraising story. This is a power play hiding in plain sight. While the SEC keeps talking about donor fatigue, NIL chaos, transfer portal panic, and the fear that the old model is collapsing, Georgia is doing something that should have every rival on alert. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Dawg Nation, Georgia has pulled in roughly $303.7 million in athletic department contributions across the 4 fiscal years since NIL began in July 2021. That is not stability, that is financial warfare. And the scary part for the rest of the conference is that Georgia is doing this while everybody admits the system is wearing people out. That is what makes this so dangerous. According to former Georgia Athletic Director Greg McGarity, donor fatigue is real, and it is not just a Georgia problem, it is everywhere. Big donors are tired of being asked to give more, and now they are being asked to give in a world where players can sign, cash in, and leave. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution framed it as a burnout moment, and even President Donald Trump described college sports as an out-of-control arms race. That phrase matters because it captures exactly how many fans and boosters feel right now. They are no longer funding a team, they are funding a market. And yet Georgia keeps raising money. That is the part nobody in the SEC wants to admit. The machine is still running in Athens, and it is running because Georgia has turned football into a financial magnet so strong that even frustration cannot fully break it. In fiscal year 2024-25, Georgia football accounted for 88.2% of the school's $94.2 million combined in ticket sales and contribution revenue, according to Dawg Nation. That included $42.1 million in ticket sales and $52.1 million in contributions. So when people say football drives the revenue train at Georgia, that is not a slogan. That is the operating model. And Georgia is squeezing every inch of value out of that model. The Bulldogs even charge fans $10 for G-Day, turning a spring game into another revenue stream in an era where every dollar matters. Kirby Smart said it plainly in comments highlighted by Dawg Nation. Every athletic department is trying to figure out how to breathe. That line tells you everything. This is not just about paying quarterbacks or winning recruiting battles. Georgia sponsors 21 varsity sports, and the football engine is being asked to help carry gymnastics, women's basketball, equestrian, track and field, and everything else that gives the athletic department its scale and identity. The Georgia Bulldog Club says its mission is to help fund all 21 programs, and that is exactly why football's financial dominance matters so much. But there is another layer here, and this is where the story turns from impressive to strategic. Georgia is not just collecting money, it is adapting faster than a lot of its rivals. In June 2025, Georgia announced an NIL partnership with Learfield to create what the school called a unified NIL strategy designed to maximize growth for student athletes. According to Georgia Athletics and Learfield, that new setup was built on the earlier work of the Classic City Collective. That means Georgia is not standing still and hoping tradition carries it. It is building institutional structure around the chaos. It is taking a loose, emotional, booster-driven marketplace and trying to turn it into an organized system. That is a huge difference. Now think about the emotional side of donor fatigue. One of the clearest symbols of NIL excess came from former Georgia quarterback Carson Beck. As reported by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Dawg Nation, Beck was linked to a Lamborghini Urus Performante valued at more than $270,000 through his NIL success. Then he transferred to Miami. Whether fair or unfair, that image became a lightning rod. For many boosters across college football, that is the nightmare. You write checks, you celebrate the player, and then the player becomes a luxury brand NIL symbol who may not even finish his career with your program. That is exactly the kind of emotional disconnect that drains donor energy. And still, Georgia keeps moving. Why? Because Kirby Smart has managed to preserve something most programs are losing: belief in a value proposition bigger than one transaction. Multiple donors quoted by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution made the same essential point. They can tolerate giving when they believe the money is attached to development, continuity, and a program identity. They lose faith when NIL feels like a pure rental market. Georgia's edge, at least for now, is that Smart still sells the idea that players come to Athens to be developed, compete, and stay in a real system, not just flip through a one-year cash stop. That matters more than people realize. This is also happening against a national backdrop that makes Georgia's position even more significant. According to Reuters and ESPN, the final approval of the $2.8 billion House v. NCAA settlement opened the door for schools to directly compensate athletes, with an annual cap starting at roughly $20.5 million per school beginning in 2025-26. That means NIL pressure did not disappear. It became part of an even larger compensation structure. Georgia is not preparing for a calmer future. Georgia is preparing for a more expensive one. Programs that already feel donor fatigue now have to live in a world where athlete pay is becoming even more formalized and scalable. That is why Georgia's recent financial warning signs are important too. According to Sports Business Journal, Georgia reported an operating deficit of about $6.6 million in FY 2025, after posting a $47.5 million surplus the previous year. So this is not some fairy tale where Georgia has solved the economics of the NIL era. It has not. What Georgia has done is stay powerful enough to keep feeding the machine while the pressure rises. That is a very different thing. The program is not immune. It is just more resilient than most. And here is where the SEC angle becomes brutal. If Georgia can keep donor enthusiasm alive longer than its rivals, while also professionalizing its NIL infrastructure, then the program gains leverage every year the chaos continues. This is how a gap becomes a moat. Meanwhile, the rest of the sport is showing clear stress fractures. Sports Business Journal reported that Ohio State ran an operating deficit of $37.7 million in fiscal 2023-24, and Yahoo reported UCLA posted a $21.6 million deficit even after the wave of Big Ten money arrived. That tells you the biggest brands in college sports are all feeling pressure. So if Georgia is still stacking contributions in that environment, the Bulldogs are not just keeping pace. They are weaponizing endurance. And the competitive map is getting harsher, not easier. ESPN reported the Big Ten's media rights agreement is worth more than $7 billion over 7 years, giving that conference a financial backbone the SEC has to respect. That kind of money changes everything: recruiting confidence, roster retention, staffing, facilities, and the ability to survive mistakes. Georgia understands that. So when Georgia keeps building donor power, considering corporate fit opportunities, and expanding NIL strategy, it is not just trying to win the SEC. It is trying to hold its place in the national arms race before the next wave hits. That is the secret move. Georgia is taking the very thing that is exhausting college sports, the nonstop pressure for more money, more retention, more structure, more urgency, and turning it into a loyalty test that Dawg Nation is still passing. Rivals see fatigue. Georgia sees consolidation. Rivals see chaos. Georgia sees an opening to deepen the bond between football power and financial power. And when that happens, the results echo far beyond Athens. Because once one program proves it can outlast the emotional burnout of the NIL era, everybody else in the conference has to ask a terrifying question. What happens if Georgia is only getting stronger while everybody else is getting tired? So here is the real takeaway. Georgia's advantage is not simply rich donors. It is not simply Kirby Smart. It is not simply football revenue. It is the combination of all three fused into a machine that still convinces people the brand is worth protecting, even when the model itself feels unstable. That is why this story should worry the SEC. Because if Georgia can keep converting loyalty into cash, cash into stability, and stability into roster power, then the Bulldogs are not just surviving the NIL era, they are building the next version of dominance right in the middle of it, and that could be the most frustrating thing imaginable for every rival watching from the outside. Did Georgia's strategy shock you, or do you think this was always coming? Do you believe Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs have found the formula for long-term power in the NIL era, or is donor fatigue eventually going to hit Athens too? Drop your take in the comments, and if you love deep dive Georgia football content like this, subscribe now and join the conversation.